Welcome to this edition of the Voice in Canada podcast. I'm Teri Fisher, and I am absolutely thrilled to be highlighting a truly Canadian story all about the partnership with Connected Canadians and Amazon Alexa. I'm delighted to have two guests with me today to discuss the incredible work they are doing using Echo to help seniors learn more about technology. And so without any further ado, I want to welcome Emily, Joanisse, and Tas Damen to the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have both of you here. Thank you so much for joining me and everybody that's watching and listening. Great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Excited to be here.
So you are doing some incredible work, helping seniors to learn technology, and we're going to definitely talk about that. We're going to talk about the intersection of technology and voice technology in particular with this latest project. But before we get to that, I'd love for the audience to just learn a little bit about you as individuals, who you are, what's your background, what's your story. So maybe we can start with you, Emily, and then Tas, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
For sure. Okay. So yes, I'm Emily. I am the co-founder, one of the co-founders and the CEO of Connected Canadians. We started Connected Canadians back in 2018, but that was after many years of interacting with seniors and helping them with technology. My background was in computer science, originally my undergrad, and I always seemed to have this huge group of surrogate mothers and grandmothers who had me on speed dial for all of their technical problems throughout most of my life. Even as I worked at software companies and youth-focused nonprofits and charities, I just kind of had them always in the back of my mind, thinking, oh gosh, like we wish we could do something more. Anyways, through a series of different coincidences in my life, I ended up working in Italy with a group of Italian seniors who were starting their own NGO, and working with them really showed me the power of technology to bridge cultures and not only that, but also just give seniors the ability to do so much more with the experience and knowledge that they've acquired through a lifetime of professional activities. And I wanted to just find a way to continue that experience. And anyways, I met Tas back in must have been 2017 or so, and we worked together at a software company. Tas actually interviewed me for that job, and I remember that interview very well. We ended up just really clicking and getting along because we were both sort of the only workaholics we knew that would book time off work to go and volunteer. I guess that's sort of how Connected Canadians got started.
Amazing. I'm sure many people can relate to that, being on speed dial. If you've got some little bit of technology know-how, there's many people that can do it. And yes, I can personally relate to that as well. So fantastic. Tas, would love to hear a little bit about your background as well.
So my name is Tas Damen. I am the other co-founder and CIO of Connected Canadians. I'm a first-generation immigrant, and I have a background in computer mathematics. I act as a software architect as my side gig, and I'm very passionate about technology. And I moved to Canada when I was only 16. Just how it helped me connect with my family back home, and I've been providing support to senior immigrants while the last 20 years. And so meeting Emily was kind of like a blessing in disguise. And I'm pretty sure you'll probably hear me say Emily effect over and over, because I was thinking about offering classes at a library, and Emily was like, no, we should really have a nonprofit. And I didn't have, coming from tech sector, I didn't really have the nonprofit experience. And so the labor of love started with Connected Canadians with Emily.
Oh, that's amazing. What a great story. So you get together and you're thinking, we're going to start this nonprofit, Connected Canadians. Can you tell us just a little bit about those early days? Like what was the mission? What was the big idea, and why was it so important? Emily, do you want to take that?
Yeah, for sure. So just going back, I had worked at a few youth-focused nonprofits and helping women and youth with digital skills, which I totally support and think is awesome. But I saw that there just wasn't a national organization that was providing those same kinds of services for seniors, and I wanted to change that. So when I met Taz, and we started talking about starting this organization. We thought, how do we do this, and how do we ultimately make technology training and support free to seniors across Canada? And as we started, this was way pre-COVID, of course, we worked very locally in our Ottawa area, and we went to retirement homes and basically tried to flog our services as trainers and teachers. And a lot of people were kind of like, why would we even want that? And so it was a really interesting experience to kind of go from being, having lots of people ask us for our help all the time to being like, we have this really cool idea and we really want to get it out there, and just listen to us. And so as we started, we had a few sort of pilot candidates that allowed us to kind of practice and gave us the privilege of teaching their senior communities. And so we worked with them, and we started to get a lot of new immigrants to Canada who had amazing technology backgrounds, master's degrees in electrical engineering and computer science and all kinds of things like that. And we noticed that during the day, a lot of those folks were working at jobs that weren't really consistent with their backgrounds and skills. And so volunteering with us was a really great opportunity, just as when I had worked in Italy, to give folks the opportunity to use those skills in a different kind of environment and help people at the same time, and really ultimately provide that free service to Canadian seniors. And we really learned a tremendous amount from that initial experimentation and just seeing what people really wanted. And we really figured out early on that the one-on-one service that we provided was really core to what we did. We found that seniors were not really interested in being lectured in a group or on a video. It was, occasionally we could give workshops, short workshops that were very focused on a specific thing. But what was definitely like the main interesting part for them was having somebody sit beside them and help them, focusing on them and their individual situation and assessing their needs. And so our one-on-one service kind of grew out of that, and we would pair volunteers with seniors in coffee shops and retirement homes and basically any public space where they would spend an hour with a senior and help them figure out a specific problem. And we would build those relationships with the seniors. So a lot of the time we'd have seniors coming back to us, many times, meeting every week with their specific mentor. And at the same time, the new immigrant would be able to practice their English and learn more about Ottawa history and all of those kinds of things, which was really cool for them too. So yeah, Taz, I don't know if you want to add anything else about our early days.
No, I know I covered it really well. So at the very beginning, we had decided that we realized how important it is to provide free support to seniors, and we want to make sure that we really work as their champions, and we use technology not necessarily for the sake of learning, but as a way of them kind of using the tools that are available to connect with communities, whether it is their loved ones or whether they are communities around. And so we've always felt that it has it's a fundamental kind of like a luxury where someone has to go on a Facebook and then just look at pictures from that standpoint. And I actually have an interesting story to share about seniors telling us about Ottawa, as Emily mentioned. So I'm a big nerd for Connected Canadians. I'm a software developer too, and so we go to senior communities, and I only lived in Ottawa for 20 years. And there's all these ladies who are telling me about the historical periods and different strikes that ever happened, and where they were born, and the hospitals are no longer hospitals there anymore. And there was a Google coding championship that was going on, and I was able to find through their stories the evolution of Ottawa through pictures. And we kind of did a picture walkthrough where you could see a Byward Market Street as it is right now, and how it is 60, 70, 100 years ago, and then overlay some of their stories. And that one, but that all of our amazing seniors kind of picturing and telling a story that was new to me. And the intergenerational aspect is really important to us from that standpoint. So whether we can have a blend of different generations or a different background, we find that it leads to a very nice atmosphere to engage in and to learn.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. So since then, I know that, I was looking on the website and looking at some of the things that you do. You've got a huge catalog of different services that you provide, which is incredible. But the one that we really want to focus on today is voice technology, and this is a newer project, and it sounds like it's a wonderful partnership between you and Amazon Canada. So let's start with the beginning of that story. Like, how did the idea? Maybe we can get Taz, you to explain a little bit about the program and the origin of that, and then we can get into kind of where we are with it now.
Up till before COVID, we were providing a lot of support to seniors who had their own devices. And once COVID started, we would reach out to our communities and we would say, we are still providing support in whatever fashion that is needed. And we realized that at that time, there's a massive need of access to technology by itself, whether it is access to internet connectivity or whether it is just access to devices from that standpoint. And so we basically created a brand new stream of work where we looked for ways of providing accessible technology to seniors, really in a nutshell. And we experimented with various few devices as part of it. And we noticed that the goal for a lot of the setup is we want to make sure the barrier to adoption is as minimal as possible from that standpoint. And so voice interactive devices are really interesting to us because they're a lot easier to integrate in your life from that standpoint. They probably don't come with every bells and whistle, but they come with a lot of good interactive experiences from that standpoint. And I think that was kind of a big jumping point for us to collaborate and partner with Amazon to see how we can enable some of the voice interactivity for seniors who are finding it hard to read, don't have as much of the finger dexterity or the confidence in typing from that standpoint. Another aspect that is quite important to us is we want to make sure that we try to accommodate for various senior settings, whether that's independent living, whether it's hospital setting, whether it's day support setting, because all of those things add an interesting mix. Not all seniors are living independently. Not all of them have access to personal support workers. And so that this being able to have a device that's easier to plug and charge, easier to set up, and then easier to interact with from that standpoint is a big draw for us that we are leaning on for this program.
That's great. And so maybe Emily, can you describe exactly like how the program works? Because I know the headlines say like, wow, you can get an Echo device from Connected Canadians and you can have that and you can interact with it. So like how logistically, how does the program work?
For sure. So basically, we're working with different senior organizations across Canada, and we are working with those organizations and training key staff members. So basically, when people apply to us, they have to, the initial part of the application phase, they basically have to prove to us that they have a certain amount of capacity to work with us and provide the support that's needed for the number of devices that they're receiving. So the organization would apply to us for 4 devices, and then we would sort of vet them based on the answers that they give us. And we have a couple more rounds of screening that go on. And once they've accepted, once they've passed all the various rounds of things, they will have scheduled training dates, and they would receive the Alexas, of course, and distribute them to their communities. And basically, they have to agree to give them out to their communities within 3 months of receiving them, if not earlier. We try to get them out basically within a month is the preferred sort of time range, but we recognize there can be sometimes when you're dealing with seniors, unexpected delays can crop up. So yeah, we basically train the staff who are there to work and set them up with the seniors and make them fully aware of all the privacy policies and things like that. And then once the seniors are set up, they are also provided with our phone number and contact details so that they can contact Connected Canadians directly if they need any additional support, because we recognize that a lot of the senior serving organizations, they won't necessarily have a lot of extra capacity to deal with ongoing support if the seniors are really looking for that.
Gotcha. So they get their Echo device, they get some training, they get set up, and then they're off and running. I just want to take one step back here. Taz, one of the things you mentioned was about the benefits of voice technology. I'm curious, was this idea for this particular program, distributing the Echo devices, was this something that came out of feedback that you were receiving from participants in your programs already, that they want to start to use voice technology? Or is this something that more like you and Emily thought, hey, this is a big opportunity and we need to jump on this?
I think probably a combination of a happy accident. So before COVID, we were trying to provide support to a few blind seniors who were very computer savvy, but they noticed that once they leave their computer desk or station and they want to roam around in the house and have access, it's not the same. I was specifically trying to have the mobile device be accessible enough in combination of it. But it's one of those things where when you offer all the functionality in the world, it's a little bit difficult to fine tune. And I think that's where a lot of our interest started, to see how we can reach out and try to provide outreaches to different types of communities that we're not able to provide outreach services to. And then in terms of, actually, Emily will probably have a good story of how our paths crossed with Amazon. And so I think when finally the match happened, we were enough. This is our third iteration of providing devices to communities that we decided we're at a good time to try to do a larger project with it.
Great. Well, Emily, now you have to share that story.
Yeah, I'll try just the nutshell version. But basically, I had reached out to a contact at Amazon Music earlier in the year and said, a lot of our seniors, music is the biggest thing that they care about with technology, and I'd love to find a way to provide them with more access to music and things in general. And so for a while we didn't hear much back, but eventually they reached out again a bit later in the year and said, hey, actually we're starting this program and we thought it would be a great fit. And I was absolutely delighted to hear it. I also have worked for many years as a DJ, so I have a strong musical interest myself, and do my best to always make sure that seniors are able to access the different types of music that they want to hear. So I was just so thrilled at the prospect of actually being able to make this happen.
That's fantastic. So I have a sort of a technical question, because I'm imagining, at least before COVID, that when a senior wants to get involved in one of these programs, you can sit down next to them, you can show them the ropes, you can show them how to use things. Now with COVID, like how have they actually been setting up their devices? Because how do you do that? Are you still going into homes? Or I'd love to learn a little more about that. I'm not sure who would like to take that question, but either of you, please.
I can take that question.
You go ahead, Tess. Yeah, go for it.
Pretty much on the type of device as part of it. So we've used some images and mobile device management software that we can then reconfigure devices, whether they be tablets or laptops, that we can get all of the pre-installed setup already be there. And sometimes that also allows that when you want a particular application or program be installed, we can then remotely push that. With Amazon Alexa, we are not there yet, but we've kind of we do train the trainer, as Emily had mentioned, and given the fact that it's quite simple to set up as compared to say a tablet, it makes it a lot easier to then operationalize that delivery model.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Definitely
please.
our oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say too, our mentors have so much experience at explaining things to people over the phone that even for our pilot part of this program, we worked with 14 seniors to start. Our mentors pretty much had it down so that they could help. Even if the senior didn't have access to Zoom or another video conferencing platform, they knew things so well that they could just help them, on their landline or whatever it was that they were working with. So I think that's something that we always try to make sure that our mentors are so comfortable with it that they could, pretty much do it in their sleep.
Got it. Right. No, that's great. So I would love to hear some stories about people that are using these devices. How is it affecting their lives? Emily, can you share some stories about now, like the results of this program and the way people are using these Echo devices?
For sure, yeah. So we're kind of at the end of the pilot right now, and starting the big part of the program, the mass deployment part. So I know we're gonna have a whole ton more stories, but even from the pilot, there were some things that really touched me. One of our recipients was a long-term care home, and one of the seniors in the long-term care home, they reported back that that senior was using Alexa to change the music to match the culture of the PSW who would come in the morning and help the senior get ready. So because they had a very multicultural staff of PSWs, and so it was just a really nice way to connect culturally and help folks feel, like to add some happiness to their day. So I just thought that was lovely. And of course, our lovely two seniors that are featured on the videos that we've shared with Amazon, Margaret Ann and Kate, are both clients we know quite well. Margaret Ann, this was a big step for her because she'd only ever had a flip phone before, and so for this was a huge deal for her. It really it's been pretty life-changing, and she actually lives in my neighborhood, and I spoke with her son, and he was saying, like, we would never have believed it. Like, this was completely like out of the scope of what we ever imagined, because she's normally been so technology averse. So just being able to see that somebody who actually has a pretty low comfort level with technology can adapt and integrate so well and actually enjoy the presence of a device is really lovely as well, because we certainly have experienced a lot of seniors who have sort of devices thrust upon them by their adult children that they don't necessarily want. So when you see sort of the happy outcome of a situation where somebody who wasn't necessarily like a super techie person taking it on and being excited about it, it's great. Yeah.
That's great, and I watched those video testimonials, and I actually made a note of this because I thought it was so great that Margaret said that she thought of Alexa as a friend, and and that she can deal with her easily, which was so wonderful. And that goes a lot, that says a lot for social isolation and loneliness. I know that can be a real issue with seniors. Taz, have you had any other feedback from other people? Do they find having a device like that comforting, or does it help with those aspects of their lives?
Yeah, for sure. So last year when we ran a similar program with a tablet, I think one of the things that we got asked a lot in our pilot is, can we play games on it? And how can we have a kind of an interactive game? And it was very challenging to kind of have that immersed experience, because you needed more participants, you needed to have, and everyone needed to have proper apps installed as part of it. It was just a lot more steps. And with Alexa, you have voice-enabled games that are interactive from that standpoint. So it doesn't seem like, oh, well, you're just blindly or silently tapping on a screen. And so quite a few of our participants have shown like a lot of excitement towards it. We're actually in our pilot piloting it in the same community which asked for games last year with a different device. And so I think that's one of the game-changing differences or big differences that we see. because you can call your loved ones and you can send them a hug. Those are all great features. But being able to interact and then play games and have them and guess your favorite character or play bingo, those sort of things are kind of very, very nice and a lot different than a tablet or a computer.
And have you heard of stories of people, I know this is, like you said, a pilot project, so it's not a huge sample size, but have you heard of stories using them to help with their like actual medical histories or medications or reminders? I know that there's a lot of interest from the medical community in terms of using voice technology to help with that. Is there anything there that you can comment on, Emily?
I would say the reminders are definitely something that our seniors have been using. I think the medical reminders, maybe it's just because our sample size has been so healthy that they're a little bit, the medical reminders are a bit less necessary. But I think that is for sure something, even if it's, cooking or those types of things are all really enjoyed. And I think just the easiness of it, the ease of use to just be able to tell it to remind you is such a great feature.
Wonderful.
And we are
go ahead. Yes.
Something on top of that. I think what is really interesting about this partnership is that we are providing feedback to the Amazon team, and we're working quite closely because the Canadian version of the device and app is customized for us as compared to the American one, and we would really like to build and evolve on that to make sure that that we can take advantage of the new things that are being released in either the firmware or in the device itself.
That's wonderful. So as you've got this pilot project and you're about to roll out the main project, what are the biggest surprises that you have learned being involved with Amazon and these Echo devices versus other programs that you've done? What is the main difference or the big takeaways that you have come across? Maybe this is a good one for both of you. Maybe you can share. Each of you can share a point or two. Who wants to start?
I can go first. So again, this is something that is a story from our experiences between the two programs. So last year, when we ran a device program, we gave tablets and we wanted them to be protected. So we put them in a nice silicone cover and we gave it out to a community that does virtual story share circles. And the first feedback I received was, it's really hard to charge it. Like it's the charger is really small and there's like multiple points for it and those sort of things. But in contrast, the Amazon devices, they kind of look like mini TVs. In a sense, they are easy to plug and charge from that standpoint and kind of easy to understand if you come from a TV or a visual screen from more like a computer to tablet. So from that standpoint, I find that right off the bat, it's a lot easier to even write manuals for or to document from that standpoint because it's very much a couple of buttons. You can understand what they do. They're very much like if you were used to using a TV or a remote from that standpoint. So that has been the biggest thing from that standpoint. And then in terms of also once the setup is done, being able to kind of evolve and learn from it from that standpoint. So we do a lot of bookmarking and saving history and those sort of things when we're actually dealing with devices and stuff. But the fact that you can be told, okay, ask me about the weather or things like that, and it encourages experimentation, I think I should say, because it's easier to experiment as compared to some of the other devices where suddenly you've done something and now your background's turned on black or your icons have become really large and you don't know how to move back. It's a lot easier to experiment or to encourage experimentation with a voice-enabled device.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And Emily?
Yeah, I think on my end, the biggest revelation I thought was just sort of our user use cases, the personas of the folks that we were giving these to, because I think we realized in the pilot that the seniors that maybe had a lot of devices already, they weren't necessarily the best candidates for this one. Some of them were, the ones who truly understood the purpose of it, but we had folks who had never had a device before who were like, wow, this opens my world, and I can do all these kinds of things. So I think it was just sort of the context setting and being able to explain why this device device will help you do better things than do things better than another device, because obviously, you know, you're not getting an Alexa to help you write emails or those types of tasks. And so if you don't really articulate exactly the things that it's going to make their life better, how it's going to make their life better, it just doesn't, they're like, you know, why are you giving me this random thing? It has to be very clearly explained. And when you give them the full context of why this is useful, all of a sudden it all clicks and it becomes a marvelous gift, as opposed to something that's kind of vaguely confusing and not necessarily useful.
Well, that's great. I mean, this is so exciting as you can guess, and I'm sure the listeners know. I mean, I'm just such a huge proponent for voice technology, and this is just such a great example of it. Where are we at now? So I'm sure a lot of listeners, viewers are thinking, "Wow, this sounds great. Like, can I get involved? What's the deal?" So can you maybe just kind of give us the status? What's the deal right now with the program, and can they get involved? Where are you at, Emily?
Yeah, so we've awarded nearly all of the batches. I think we might have one batch left to give out to a senior organization. So if there's anybody who has a senior organization that is listening right now that is like, oh my gosh, I would love to have a batch of these devices, we might still be able to talk to you about that. But I know we're real close right now, and definitely, hopefully we would love to be able to do this program in future again, in next year and years to come, because I think there is such value in it, and it really just gives and it gives so many opportunities to people that otherwise would never even thought of adding something like this to their lives. So yeah, I very much hope we can continue this in future.
That's wonderful. And Taz, how can people learn more about your organization in general, whether it's about the ECHO program through Amazon or the other programs that you have? You've got such great programs. Maybe you can share some resources or some links with the listeners and the viewers.
For sure. So we're active on all social media platforms. ConnectedCanadians.ca is our website, and we have a list of all of our programming. If you're interested in volunteering for us, we have a volunteer page. We have a rigorous onboarding process. So please don't be afraid of that. The idea is really to make sure that you have the passion and care to work with the senior communities from that standpoint. And then we also have a local Canadian number and an international number, but we are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Emily is our social content director, brand ambassador, and all of those things from that standpoint. But yes, we would love to hear from you.
Well, that's wonderful. I want to just pause for a moment and let the two of you share anything else that we haven't really talked about today. If there's something that we missed that you think is important for the audience to know before we wrap things up, Taz or Emily, anything else to add there?
I just think we're really grateful to Amazon Canada for giving us this opportunity. It was just a really amazing experience, and their team has been so great, and we're just excited to even the usability feedback that we've been gathering, and I think this collaboration has been so awesome and so much fun that I'm just really grateful.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Emily, Taz, if people want to reach out to you personally, are there particular resources, LinkedIn, or do you have other links? Oh, and also please share the website URL so that people know where to go. If there's any other resources or any other links you want to share, please take the opportunity to do that. Taz?
Yeah, for sure. We're on LinkedIn, both Emily and myself. We have a link off from our website as well. We also have a Facebook Messenger platform that people can reach us out on as well from that standpoint.
Great.
I nominate Taz to answer the Facebook Messenger messages.
And what is your URL? Let's make sure we say the URL so people can go to the website.
It's www.connectedcanadians.ca.
All right, awesome. Well, Emily, Taz, thank you so much for spending some time with all of us today. It's really appreciated. The work you're doing is incredible. I love this story. It's such a heartwarming story, all Canadian story, which is great for this audience. I've got, obviously a special place in my heart for Canadian stories. So keep up the great work. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and maybe we can chat again in the future and follow up and see how things are going.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Teri, for having us. It's been delightful.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Wonderful. Talk again soon.